The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're gonna love it.
Okay, let's go.
So anyway, I mean, this is crazy, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but yeah, literally like once a quarter, I take this magnesium citrate bottle. It's like a 4-ounce bottle I buy for like $2 from Target or wherever, and it flushes me out. And I've done it with I've done it with but castor oil is a little more difficult to swallow. But anyway, all right, we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, listen, deep, shallow divers, I've got a treat for you today. And actually, what's awesome is this is an episode that I've wanted to do myself for a long time now. And I've actually teased it several times and just have not gotten around to do it. And now that I'm doing my guest interviews, I thought, you know what? Instead of hearing from me, let's hear from an expert in gut health. And so today I've got the lovely Lauren Callahan here, and she is going to literally, this is going to be fun. Like, I've been wanting to do this, but she's going to take us all through and help us completely understand gut health. So, hey, welcome to the Deep Shallow Dive, Lauren. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me, Ray. I'm excited.
Good. Well, listen, why don't you start off, just give kind of your elevator pitch so everybody kind of knows who you are and knows what you're about before we jump in.
Sure. So I am a holistic health practitioner, and I mainly work with women, especially in midlife. So specifically with women who are going through menopause or perimenopause. And here's the kicker. Most of them don't actually know that they're in perimenopause. So we'll keep it to midlife women there.
Yeah. Wait, when you say perimenopause, I mean,
Yeah.
what is that for us dumb guys?
That is so wonderful. I think I'm just realizing recently, like, that a lot of people don't actually know what it is.
Yeah.
But you say dumb guy, but truly, a lot of women don't know that they're in it either. Okay, so menopause would be when a woman has not had her period for an entire year. Okay, 12 months is the time that you're going to say that, and there are a million hormonal and physiological and emotional and mental changes that coincide with that process. But perimenopause is the period before that. It's the transition period. And actually, what most women experience is that period is more hellacious than actual menopause. Yeah. And it can last a really long time. It can last for like 4 to 8 years. And again, a lot of women don't even know that they're in it. So they find themselves in this position where they're like, I'm
it can last 4 to 8 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like the PMS.
Yeah, a long time. So women come to this place where they're like, oh my God, I don't sleep anymore. Like, I'm crabby. I feel terrible. All these things going on, and they don't even know that they're in perimenopause.
Wow. And by the way, is it PERI, peri?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. And then okay, so that's kind of what you're about. And then on the gut health stuff, I think that falls under your entire vibe of your holistic, vibe, which, by the way, that's another thing I've wanted to really delve into because, again, honestly, health is a huge part of my life, and it's been a huge part of my life really since 2006. But I can't say on the holistic side. I mean, I have a good baseline understanding of things, but that might be you might have to become a recurring theme, or you might have to become a recurring guest to talk about that. But let's jump into gut health, because that is the topic of the day. You want to start off by really just defining what that is for people. What is gut health? And this is funny. It's kind of like what you said, where women might not even know they're in it. A lot of people, when you say your gut, they kind of think maybe the stomach. But I don't think they realize the concept of gut health probably starts with the mouth, right? Like the mouth to the esophagus and all that. So yeah, take us through kind of gut health 101.
Sure. Yeah. So it's going to include everything that is involved basically in that digestion process from your mouth all the way down to your bottom, right? It's like everything in between. And the thing is that the gut, scientists are saying these days that the gut is basically your second brain.
Okay.
And that's because it's connected to everything, like everything. I mean, certainly we can, we can deduce, yeah, it's connected to like your gastrointestinal health, right? Like that's kind of an obvious one. If you're having, issues with,
Yeah.
in the bathroom or before, after, whatever. Yeah, that probably has to do with your gut, likely. But it is connected to everything. It is connected to your immunity. So your ability to like show up around people who are sick and be okay. Not be worried about that, right?
Yeah.
Whether you were wearing a mask or not.
Yeah.
It is connected to your ability to think clearly. So think brain fog. And this can affect anybody and everybody, but this is especially a thing that shows up for women who are in that menopause, perimenopause stage, like total brain fog. They're like, oh my God, I can't think clearly anymore at certain points, right? Your gut is totally connected to that. It is connected to your energy levels. Okay. So again, I work primarily with women, so I hear this from women all the time. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, this spans for everybody. This is, it's kind of
Are the majority of those married? Are the majority of those married women because they're tired of their husbands?
married with kids. Yes.
I'm kidding.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I did want to tell you this. You don't have to pick your words or worry about saying gross things, because my listeners are used to it. I literally did an episode where I leveraged ChatGPT, and I had a conversation with ChatGPT that I recorded talking about what should our number 1 and number 2 look and smell like. So this audience is very familiar with my ability to get gross. But listen, we're getting gross because this stuff matters. Like, this stuff matters. Like, honestly, I am such a believer in really I look at the toilet. This is going to be gross, but here we go. I'm going to set this. I'm going to set the pace. I look in the toilet every time I go to the bathroom. Number 1 and number 2. I want to see, like, okay, what just came out? And then I also have a theory about, when I go out to eat, I don't care if it's Mastro's or Jack in the Box. I don't really eat Jack in the Box, but the next day, what the number 2 looks and smells like, that means that's what you put into your body, so you have to pay attention to this stuff. And obviously I think this all kind of goes into, the gut health discussion.
Well, now that you've given me like absolute freedom to go there, this is
Carte
how
blanche.
this started. This is how this started for me. Like I'm an athlete, and I'm eating pretty healthy. Like I'm doing all the healthy things, right? And dear God, I was a therapist, right? So like I'm doing all the healthy things for self-care. But I'm looking at the toilet, and I'm like, there's a lot of diarrhea happening, right? And I'm like, okay, is it possible that I am eating all these healthy things and doing all these healthy things, but there's no way that my body can be like truly processing it when I'm seeing in the toilet what I'm seeing? Like it's like it just went straight through me, right? So is it possible that my gut is not healthy and it's not able to receive the good things that I'm doing it? And Ray, that was the best question I ever could have asked myself because it wasn't. What I found out was my gut was not receiving all the things that I was doing for it, all the good things I was doing for it. Yeah, and looking at the toilet helped me see that. So.
I love that. I love that. And I wrote this down. We're gonna get into this, into probiotics and all this stuff. Like, a product that says, 1 billion active cultures or whatever. I want you to help us understand what that really means, and how does a body process 1 billion of anything? But we'll get into that in a second. So let me ask you this, and correct me if I'm wrong. So what I want to think about in terms of gut health, I want to start with, and I wrote this down, the mouth to the esophagus, to the stomach, to the small intestine, to the large intestine, which a lot of people refer to as the colon, to the rectum, to the anus, and then we are to the toilet. Is that kind of like the collective process we should be thinking about when we think about our overall gut health?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, like I would not be able to give you the specifics from, the mouth all the way down to the anus, right? Like a lot of the like sciencey specifics around that. I hang out more in the realm of like the actual gut metabolites that we're looking at and what you need to do about it to change your life, right? Like because we're in this place of complete information overload. And like this is another thing thing that I hear from a ton of people. Like, I know what I should be doing. I know what I should be doing. Like everything you and I talk about today is like you said, we could put it into ChatGPT. I mean, we could find out everything and be fine. Like you and I are not so we're not smarter than everything out that is out there on Google. And so this goes into your question about like, coaching and health practitioners and all of that. There's an element of we already know everything. Let's put it into practice now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about this. So what causes bad gut health?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. A lot of things. I would say on the whole, our general way of living as Americans, like just tends to not help the gut. The very fact that we just like talked about like going to Jack in the Box and looking at the toilet afterward, like therein is part of our issues with gut health, right?
Yeah.
Like our processed foods, our over dependence on like convenience foods, antibiotics, other thing, we're generally like an antiseptic society. So like even our use of antibacterial soaps, like our body wants bacteria, right? So our continual efforts to kill them are like not helping, because bacteria is, a really wonderful thing in your gut. Like your gut loves bacteria. It wants a lot of it and it wants different kinds of it. Right? So all the things we do to kill bacteria, there's some things that, like there's some bacteria that your gut needs that you're not even going to be able to get it from food, or it's not like it just exists within you. You only get it from dirt. Like you have to go put your hands in dirt. Yes. Really? To get this good bacteria inside of you that is going to help give you a healthy gut microbiome. And then, like I'm a mom, so I'm whatever. I'm just going to say this again. I feel like you can use some freedom here.
Dude, we keep it real.
How many people do you see like they're, how many moms or dads or whatever that their kids walk out into the rain or like touch, dirt or a worm, and they're like,
but that's all good. That's all good. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think that's all good. And the funny thing is, think back to when I'm probably a little bit older than you, but think back to when we were kids. That was our life. I mean, literally, when I was a kid, I literally would leave the house at 8, 9 in the morning, and I wouldn't come home until 8, 9 at night. And that entire time I'm in the woods, I'm playing with worms, I'm doing all that stuff. It's a different life. So you're a fan and supportive of kids being kids, like older kids.
Yes. Yeah. Look, my youngest, he's 13, and he still does not have a phone. He's 13. He doesn't have a phone yet.
Wow.
But, he has access to like computer time and stuff like that. And I love that. But, when he starts asking about it, he finds ways around it. Like, he knows his video time is like at this certain time of day, but can we look up on your phone this thing that he knows will take like a half hour or whatever? Anyway, and I will look at him. He's 13. I'm like, go be a kid. Go outside and be a kid. And he's actually taken that. He, like, for example, he'll go dig like a mud hole in our backyard and he'll come back and tell me, Mom, I was being a kid. He knows how to use that one now.
I love it. Okay, so I think you hit on something that's definitely something I wasn't thinking about. Gut health is not only about what you put into your body, but it's about what you're interacting with in the environment in order to build your immune system, right?
Yes.
Breathing in air that has XYZ pollutant in it, that's going to cause an immune reaction, and therefore it's going to cause your immune system to be able to handle something like that. I think that's an awesome addition. I wasn't even thinking about environmental factors when it comes to gut health. I was thinking all about just what you're consuming that's going into the quote unquote gut.
Sure. There's so many factors. Yes, absolutely. Like nutrition, hands down. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a major player in your gut health. You cannot like live off of fast food and chips and like sugar and candy and like expect to have good health or good gut health. It's not going to happen. Major player. Yes. But then there are other things such as environment, like we brought out, but also like the amount of stress. So it's that I work with women in midlife, right?
Yeah.
Stress absolutely will will kill. I mean, stress is like the number one killer that everybody anyway,
100%.
right? But like it kills your
100%.
gut health. It absolutely destroys your gut health. Not getting enough sleep. Like, I mean, how many people are like, oh, I'm fine on 4 hours of sleep. Let me tell you, no, it actually has hugely, adverse outcomes on your gut health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so many things that are related to it.
I
For sure.
think the stress thing, I just want to stay on that for a second. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that is such the number one factor of practically every health related issue. And I notice it myself. I mean, when I get stressed about something, especially if that stress is acute, it just comes on. I'm not kidding. There's times when that causes me to go to the bathroom. I mean, we're going
Yeah.
to keep it real. I'm pretty regular. Like in the morning, I get up pretty much within the first 20 minutes, I make a deposit at the bank. And when that doesn't happen, then I know something's wrong,
Yeah.
then I know like, oh man, what is going on? I did not make my morning deposit. So like when it comes to stress, I do want to stress this with everybody. Realize that is affecting your gut and it's affecting your body. And you more than anybody probably believes in this mind body connection,
Yes.
which I
Yeah.
completely do as well. So okay,
Yeah,
very
and
cool.
I'll tell you when I test the gut health like of my
Oh, yeah.
clients, it's one of the first things that we do. There is a gut metabolite that gets tested, and it's called xanthine. And xanthine is actually a direct reflection of stress, and that's physical stress, emotional stress, mental stress, like any kind of stress. So I mean, it could be, you just lost a loved one, or you had a stressful day at work, or you're an athlete who's overtraining. Like it could be any kind of stress, right? And when that marker is elevated, I mean, you're looking at inflammation and just a whole breakdown of processes in your gut. And so again, you could be eating really good foods, but the whole process is now breaking down because of stress and xanthine. And I'll tell you, every single time, the people that I test, they are amazed at how high their xanthine levels actually are. And they're like,
Xanthine.
I don't
Okay.
have a stressful life.
Well, that's
they're like,
interesting.
I don't know, everything's fine. We don't have that much stress. And then, I mean, we just continually raise the bar on our own stress, right? And don't realize like how much we're actually carrying.
Absolutely. So how do you test for gut health? So I come in and I want my gut health tested. What is that process?
Yeah, so there's actually a lot of different ways. There are different, companies, businesses out there that do it, and I'm certainly not familiar with all of them. I started in my own personal journey with one company. They're called Excella, and I love them, so I've stayed with them, and that's who I use for all my clients. But it's very, very simple. Like, you get a little kitten mail. You prick your finger, send in the blood sample, like you mail it off. Like it's super simple. It takes 10 seconds.
I lost you there for a
Yeah.
second.
So you just get, how about now? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. Yeah. You just get a kit in through the mail, and it's a very simple pinprick blood test. You just prick
it's
your
a
finger.
blood test. It's not a stool sample. I thought it might be a stool
it's
sample.
not. No,
Okay.
nothing like that. You just prick your finger and mail it off.
Interesting.
It's so super simple.
Okay. And then from that blood test, they test for xanthine. And then is there any other marker? Is there another marker that they're looking for? Are they looking for like elevated white blood cell count to show any type of infection maybe or anything else?
Yeah, not with this company that I use. So this company that I work with, Excella, they test 11 different gut metabolites. Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
There are a lot of gut metabolites, but
Okay.
these 11 are the ones that continually show up as significantly related to our health outcomes. So basically, the gut metabolites that they test, we can divide them up into ones that are really, really significant, certainly for your gastrointestinal health, but also for your emotional balance, your cognitive clarity, your immunity, your energy. And they kind of divide them up between those 5, so you can see how you're doing in each of those areas. So you have a better sense of not just, okay, my overall gut health is poor or good or whatever. You can see the areas that need a little bit more work.
Okay, got it. So to close out on the bad things, I mean, obviously processed foods, preservatives, those type of things. What about sugar? I feel like sugar is like the silent assassin.
Dear God, yes, you're so right. Yeah. And yes. So, okay. Yeah, in general, like it's bad for you anyway, right? It's like on a million levels. But yes, foods that are high in those highly refined sugars. So what I'm not talking about here is like fruit. Okay, like a
Okay.
lot of, I've heard a
Yeah.
lot of like, no, grapes are so bad for you. They're so sugary. But yes, I eat my ice cream. Okay, so we're not
Yeah.
like eat the
Yeah.
good stuff. But the highly processed, the highly refined stuff. Yeah, the people that eat more sugar, it destroys the population of bacteria in your gut. And remember, your gut likes bacteria. It wants a lot of it,
Mhm.
and it wants a diversity of it, okay, so different kinds. And sugar kills that. So yes, you are destroying your gut by eating a lot of sugar.
And then to talk about fruit for a second, like the natural sugar from fruit, does that destroy that various bacteria less, or does that not even destroy the various bacteria?
The thing there would be keeping in balance. Okay, so in and
Okay.
of
Okay.
itself,
That's
no,
fair.
it's not like destroying. It's not destroying bacteria. It's the balance, though. Certainly, if that's
Okay.
all you ever had, then yeah, that'd be an overload. But the opposite is true too. Especially a lot of women, they're on this train of, well, I need to eat less carbs, right?
Yeah.
Like to cut carbs. And so fruit is bad and all these other things are bad. And actually, your gut doesn't like that either. It wants balance. So that means we run into some issues when we're talking about extreme kind of intermittent
Mm,
fasting. I'm not saying
mm.
fasting is bad. Intermittent fasting
Yeah.
isn't bad. Your body actually likes a little bit of fasting. That's why sleeping at night is a really good thing. It likes
Yeah.
that break.
Yeah.
But people that take it to an extreme, or they have a very small like eating window, cutting foods out, or but you and I are the generation where we learned that like fat is bad. Like you shouldn't eat fat because it's going to make you fat. Well, like that's not true, right? Like your body wants healthy, high quality fats. So cutting those things out is like right in line with, eating ultra processed foods, eating too much sugar. I didn't like that. Like your body wants a good balanced diet. Like it
A
doesn't want you
balanced
to,
diet.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't
That
want you
that's
to eat
awesome.
carb, none of meat, all that.
Let me ask you about two things. Let's talk about intermittent fasting for a second. I didn't even have that on the agenda today, but since you brought that up, because I did an episode on intermittent fasting, and personally, I've tried, a variety of stuff. Before I tell you my thoughts, what are your thoughts on intermittent fasting overall, besides not eating when you sleep, obviously?
Yeah, so to a certain degree it's fine. And I will say that, I'm what I'm saying now is what I have heard in consult with dietitians. Okay, so this one
Mm,
is a little bit outside of my scope of practice. But I've had lots of conversations with dietitians who specialize in gut health. And so my understanding is that yeah, a little bit of fasting is fine, but what tends to happen is that people make that window of eating too short, and you cannot get the nutrients that you need usually within that window. It's really hard. And so I'm talking
mm.
beyond your macros. Like I'm talking beyond your carbs versus protein versus fat. I'm talking about like nutrients and minerals and the things that feed your gut.
Got it.
It's hard to get it all within that short period. And also women in particular, when their fasting window is too long, their bodies tend to go into starvation mode, and so then they have a really hard time with weight. That doesn't happen as quickly with men. Men can get away with fasting a little bit more, and the main issue is they're not getting the nutrients. But with women, you go into the starvation mode, and so you're really hurting the weight issue if you're a
Mm,
woman. So yeah,
interesting.
that's been
Okay.
really
Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, listen, I wanted to be the biggest believer in intermittent fasting ever because I'm disciplined enough to where I can
Mhm.
do 18/6, which I started. Then I went to 16/8, then 18/6. I got to a point where I was doing 24. So like 20 hours
Wow.
of fasting. I was eating between 12 noon and 4 p.m. or 11 to 3. It was like the early bird special. I felt like a Seinfeld episode with the Costanzas or something like that. But I'm disciplined enough that I could do it. But man, I did not really see any results. I didn't see any weight loss results at all. Like I thought. I'd get rid of the 5 to 7 pounds that I wanted to get rid of. And so for me, I then went back on really my portion control, which is the biggest issue, I think, for most men in general, and definitely my issue. But once I went back to the portion control, that's what kind of did it for me. And that's like my diet is portion control. I try to eat everything now these days, but in moderation. But my second question was, speaking of diet, I mean, do you have a particular diet / lifestyle when it comes to foods? Like, is there a methodology to what and how you eat?
No, I would say no, not at all, except a continual aim to eat healthy and balanced.
Okay.
So I say there's no diet, but somebody, honestly, somebody else might look at it and think that it's a diet. I don't eat fast food unless I have to. If I'm on a road trip, I'll eat a Chick-fil-A salad.
Sure.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll actually get the fries too. That's the one time I'll get fries. But I did a sugar detox at one time. It took me about 3 weeks. It was like hell the first week, and I used to be
Yeah.
a pastry chef. I want to throw that in there. Okay, so this was
Oh,
like
how
really not
funny.
easy for me. The second week was really hard. The third week I was like, huh, what that? And then after that, I really didn't want it. So I'm kind of at this place in my life that I usually don't want sugar. It's not like I'm trying to
Sure.
portion it or control it. I just don't want it, right? So it's not a diet to me. It's just a lifestyle that's become very normal. But yeah, other than that, I'd say in general, I mean, I keep out the unhealthy stuff. And I'm so used to it that I don't want it, usually. And then other than that, yeah, a pretty healthy mix of like all the food groups,
You're not like no
and that's about
carbs. You're
it.
not like a no carb person or things like that. Okay.
No,
Okay.
I'm
All
not a
right. All right.
vegetarian like
Okay.
that. Like, no, need at all.
Well, you look lean. I'm judging literally just based off of your shoulders and your face. So you look
Yeah, yeah.
lean. You look lean. And then you said you were a former athlete. Like, were you like a competitive athlete? What sport? What did you do?
I'm not competitive, and I still am. So I'm an ultra runner and an
Hmm.
Ironman athlete. And actually, like, I'm glad you asked, because this is a huge part of the gut health story for me, because this is why I became interested in gut health, because I was running and I had tried for 4 freaking years to run a marathon, and I tried and failed at every single point. And then I started learning a little bit about gut health, and I hear
Hmm.
these claims like, oh, these athletes who were always dealing with this injury, well, they, help their gut health and they're not dealing with that anymore. And I was like, yeah,
Oh, that's
I was
interesting.
like, gut health is going to help me with my knee. Okay, we'll see. So, I thought I'd try it. And honestly, like that, I mean, that was the best thing I could have done. And so, remember, 4 years of trying to run a marathon and failing
Yeah.
every time. And then a 3 to 6 month period where I like laser focused worked to improve my gut health. And then that is the year that I ran my marathon. I ran a
Wow.
50 miler. I did an Ironman, all my first time for all of this. And then I ran another 50 miler, and then I ran another Ironman, or did another Ironman, and then I ran a 50K, and then I ran 100K, and I did that all within 1 year. When
That's
I've been
insane.
struggling so much. Lots of positive things to say about gut health, is, especially as far
That's
as athletic
insane that
stuff.
you did
That wasn't
that
the only thing. I
all.
know they're different.
Wow, that's insane that you did that all in 1 year. Your yearly Fitbit number was probably more than mine. But you know what? I think I know why. I think I know why. So I think when you fixed your gut health, you probably fixed any internal inflammation that you had going on, and
Yes.
probably the inflammation that was around the knee, that probably went away, and therefore your joints were moving the way they need to be moving, and that probably fixed it. That's a huge point. Wow, I'm really glad you shared that. That is a huge point, because I've talked a lot about over the years. I mean, even before I started this podcast, just with friends, I talk about inflammation. I'm like, inflammation is absolutely massive. When you feel bloated, when you feel, you're retaining water and all of that, even more than that, the sugary foods and all that, that causes that internal inflammation, which truly becomes a killer.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, inflammation is like the root of all evil.
I totally agree. I totally agree. All right, so let's move on to maybe some warning signs. Are there warning signs to bad gut health that people
Yeah.
should be
So,
aware of?
it's so broad. Like, it's hard to even answer this one. It's kind of like saying, if your brain wasn't working, what are the warning signs?
Mm.
Everything would be off, right? And
Yeah.
remember, your gut is like your second brain. So what are the warning signs? Well, is there any way in which you feel off? The number one thing on our checklist should be our gut health. Now, the thing is, obviously, we get kind of used to things, right? So, I mean, I
Mhm.
just told you about my athletics and how that like took off once I
Yeah.
improved my gut health. But also within that same year, I had several moments where I was like, man, I had all this trouble sleeping, and now I do.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then I had another day that I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I was dealing with, like, depression and anxiety in a way that I never had, and now I'm not. And then I'd have another day that I was like, "Oh my god." Like, I was having all this diarrhea and all this, all these gastrointestinal issues, and now I'm not. So it was really, like, things that I didn't even think about as being a problem because I got so used to them. After my gut health improved, I was like, "Oh, they're not a problem anymore." And now if it does become a problem, I'm like, "Okay, wait, what's going on with my gut? I need to check
Mm.
this out. I need to like do my checklist of, what I'm eating and what I'm doing and stress and all of those things, because I know something is not right." So, how do you know something's wrong? I mean, yeah, it can be your mood. It can be, are you getting sick a lot, right? I used to get
Oh, that's a
sick
good
all
one.
the time, and I don't now.
That's a
You know,
good
is
one.
it
That's a good one,
yeah.
actually. That speaks to your immune system. So when you fixed all those things because you fixed your gut health, how the hell did you fix your gut health? Tell us what you did.
Yeah, okay. So, let's remember it is highly personal for everybody, okay?
Sure,
So,
sure. Yeah.
um, there are like lots of general concepts that will help you with your gut health, but truly, truly, like if you want to be on a mission to like really improve it, like you need to get tested, which is again, it's the first thing I do
Okay.
with my clients,
Okay.
right? But for me, several things. I did way too much at once. I would never recommend anybody like do as much as I did at once. It was a lot of change. But one was I started having a lot more fiber. Okay,
Okay.
so fiber supports the population and diversity of your gut. I
Okay.
had to improve my hydration.
Okay.
Hydration.
On the fiber real quick. Are we talking like Metamucil? Like, did you do like a scoop of Metamucil, or did you start eating more fibrous foods, or a combination of both?
More fibrous foods. I really can't speak to Metamucil. I tend to go for, a food first
Yeah, you're
approach. I'm
holistic
sure
with the.
Metamucil is probably fine. I really just don't know. I've never used it.
Got
But
it.
yeah,
Got it.
fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds.
Okay. Fruits,
That's how,
vegetables, nuts, and
yeah,
seeds. Okay. Great.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so better hydration. I wasn't super great at that, especially as an athlete, and I live in Louisiana, so like when it's hot, like sweat. I mean, the hydration, it's like you really have to be intentional about your hydration if you live in
Okay.
Louisiana, but anywhere for sure.
Yeah.
That was one. Eating more.
Hydration, with the hydration. So like 8 glasses of water a day, like the methodology, or what are we talking? Like how much? And I'm assuming water, right? You're drinking water. That's the
So
hydrator.
not just water. So there needs to be a combination here. I'm totally blanking on the formula. Yeah, about 8 glasses of water. Yes,
Okay.
that's approximate. I'm forgetting the formula. It's so many ounces per pound.
Per pound.
Per
Okay,
pound.
got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
I just can't remember what it is, but it's
Okay.
roughly equals to 8 glasses. Yeah, but yeah, you do need more than that. We need to think electrolytes too. So
Mm.
one of the dietitians that I work with, like she gave me this great homemade recipe for hydration because I can't really do the hydration tablets like I mean, there's a lot of different brands of
Yeah. Yeah.
hydration,
Yeah.
powders, tablets, or whatever. They usually have something fake in them, and I just don't tolerate it very well. So she gave me a recipe that's like coconut water, pineapple juice, and salt. And so you get your magnesium, your potassium, your sodium chloride. So you need electrolytes as part of your hydration.
Okay. Got it. Got it. And as I take a sip of this coffee, what are your thoughts on coffee?
Yeah, okay, I love you asked that, because I got to tell you this story. Because this is a perfect example of how everybody's gut health is different.
Yeah.
Why I say, like, you got to get tested because it's just specific to each person. Okay, so yeah, too much caffeine, yes, causes inflammation. That does adversely affect your gut health. One of the gut metabolites that I test, using Excella, is methylxanthine, which is a direct reflection of inflammation related to caffeine.
Wow.
So
My methylxanthine is going to be off the charts because, man, I
Here's
drink a lot
the
of
thing.
coffee.
Okay, so when I got tested, like I'm a tea drinker. I like black tea.
Mm.
I'm like, this is gonna be fun. Well, actually, I didn't even know they tested it. So when I saw it, it was high. I was
Oh,
like, wow, like I drink tea. Okay, so
yeah.
maybe it's like 2 to 3 cups, and maybe it's 2 tea bags per cup. I mean, I do have a little straw, but like it's freaking tea. So my husband, though, he got tested after I did. And I used to joke to my kids, like, if we like are all of a sudden poor, it's going to be because of the amount of money that we spend on coffee from the grocery store for my husband. Like, it's not even Starbucks. Like, he he drinks a lot of it, and he drinks it strong. And that's actually not true anymore. He doesn't drink it now.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, like, to the point, like, family comes over and they know that if he made the coffee, like, they have to add like half a cup of hot water to it. Okay, it's that
Oh,
strong.
that's funny.
So when he gets tested, I'm like, oh my God, his methylxanthine is going to be high. And do you know what? That man, he had a better level than I did. Like, he was
Interesting.
closer to optimal than I was. And I was like, what?
That's interesting.
This is
Actually, that's interesting because you know what? That speaks to what you said earlier. Everybody's body is different. And so
yes.
what might work for one person or react for one person is different. And that definitely, I'm sure, plays in the gut. That's funny. He
Yeah.
was probably like, see, I told you, make
No,
that
and I'm like,
coffee.
hold on, I'm trying to cut my caffeine over here.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. The caffeine reduction, if we're going to talk general principles on gut health, yes, caffeine reduction is a good thing.
Okay, got it. By the way, when we hear the term microbiome, man, that sounds so scientific. What exactly is that?
So, gosh, what would be the best way to define that? I mean, we're talking about, so everything in the gut, like we mentioned earlier, like from the mouth down to like your anus, right? The whole entire environment. We're talking about the bacteria within that environment. That is like the most non-sciencey definition I just gave you.
Okay.
But we're talking about the bacteria in there, because I
Okay.
guess maybe that's the heart of it that we need to get, is that bacteria is a good thing. Your gut likes bacteria, wants a lot of it, and it wants to.
I mean, I think that is very big learning for everybody. That bacteria is a good thing because you know,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, we are naturally trained that you hear the word bacteria and you think bad.
Must be
When
bad. Right. Must be bad.
fundamentally
You
we
know,
probably should flip that script.
yeah. The analogy that I like to think of is like a forest. Okay. So I live right next to Kisatchie National Forest. And, if you think about a forest, yeah, you've got like your pine trees, you've got your hardwood trees, you've got all different kinds of animals, you've got, deer and birds and all the
Mhm.
different flowers, you've got mushrooms, you need those, they like help decompose. You need all of that. Like, if I walked out into a forest and looked off in the distance and I was like, there's a tree. Like, you would know that that's not healthy. Or if I went into the forest and it was nothing but like wild hogs, for example, which, by the way, here is like an invasive species and they kill everything, right? Like, if you see a bunch of wild hogs, you're like, oh, this is not healthy, because you're gonna not see like the foxes and deer and other
Oh, got it.
wildlife. And your gut microbiome is the same way. Like, if you just have like a little bit of bacteria or not many different kinds, then your gut is not healthy. And the things we talked about earlier, like, eating chips and fast food and like sitting on the couch and having too much sugar, those are the things that like weed out all of the good things, all the good bacteria in your gut, and end up with like the one tree or like a bunch of wild hogs, right? Like, your gut is just not healthy that way.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Random question: are you a big like into movement? Like, are you a Fitbit person? Step count? Do you try to get like 10,000 steps a day or anything like that? Is that part of your regimen?
Okay. Well, I'm a big movement person. I mean, like, my goal right now is to run a 100-mile race. So like, I'm definitely all about movement. With
Yeah.
my clients, we make sure like we have some sort of movement, exercise, strength training, like something like that. Like, yes. And good point. People who exercise regularly have better gut health. And when those people stop exercising, their gut health goes downhill. But do I wear a Fitbit and all that? Actually, no. Like, I have a Garmin that I'll wear when I'm running, but I don't wear it all day. Like, I'm not counting steps. Like, I just, it's just part of my routine that every day I'm gonna get in like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, maybe more of exercise.
Okay, all right, that's fair. So you're not like me where you wear an Apple Watch on this wrist and a Fitbit on this wrist, because I have trust issues.
I
I don't
was
trust
wondering.
these devices.
I
No,
was
that's
laughing
funny.
because like sometimes I'll leave it on, I'll leave the watch on and not really think about it. And then all of a sudden I'll get this notification like you hit your step goal. You made
Yeah.
3,000 steps today. And I'm like, 3,000 steps? Like that's my goal. But it's because I never wear my watch. So it doesn't know that I'm like
God,
moving.
that's
Like,
hilarious.
wow, we have
That's
the bar really
hilarious.
low here.
That's funny. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about, so as far as like really number one and number two going to the bathroom, obviously when that is off, whether it's the
Yeah.
smell, whether it's the color, whether it's the whatever, and we don't have to get into the details because like I said, I did an entire episode on this for people, and I'll link that episode to this one. But obviously
Yeah, cool.
that's a sign, right? That's a marker. Like
Yeah.
people need to
Yeah.
pay attention to what it's like going to the bathroom, right? Like, is that something you tell your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you are not regular, and if you're constipated, like if you've got loose, watery stools, like that,
Mm.
that's a problem, right? So if it's anything other than you being regular and it being a consistency that is comfortable for you, then yeah, that's an issue. And then apart from that, apart from your stool as a warning sign, I mean, I know this sounds super broad, but I would really say like anything in life where you're like, this doesn't feel good. Gut health
Mm.
should be like one of the number one things you check into. I'm not happy. Check into your gut health. I'm tired. Check into your
Okay.
gut health. I'm getting sick. Check into
Very
your gut health.
interesting. You know what? Very interesting. I mean, I'm a big believer in the mind body connection, but I've never taken it to that level to where it's like, okay, XYZ, check into my gut health. So, all right,
Well,
that's good learning for everybody. I mean, that makes sense though, in similar to your situation athletically, where I genuinely think you're correcting your gut health reduced your internal inflammation around your knee, which then enabled you to, I mean, that's pretty insane. You went from not being able to do it to like doing it times 10.
yeah, yeah, right. And let me how about this might be a good one to give a little bit of the science around around some gut health if that's okay. I'll
Mhm.
maybe geek out
Yeah,
for just a minute. Is that fine?
do it.
So, okay, so let's talk about like if you're not happy, right? So let's go with this mind body connection. If you're not happy and you're going to go to the doctor and say, like, I'm not happy, I probably need to take something, I'm kind of biting everybody's head off, right? And so, probably your doctor will prescribe to you an SSRI with one of those S, that's an antidepressant, and one of those
Okay.
S's stands for serotonin. That's because it
Okay.
affects the way your body produces and utilizes serotonin, because serotonin is directly related to your ability to feel happy. Now, here's the thing. Little known fact is that 90% of your body's serotonin is actually produced in your gut.
How funny. Interesting.
Yes. So it like you're not crazy, right? Like it's not like there's a problem with you because you're not happy.
Yeah.
Like you just may have low serotonin. Now here's the thing. Now like let me be clear. This is not a conversation on take an SSRI or don't take one. It is not that. But this is just
I
to
feel you.
inform. Okay. Now here's the thing. Serotonin. If it is prescribed to you and you start taking it, that is actually going to move the production of your serotonin from your gut to your brain, which
Mm.
cause a host of other issues, which is why some people have a lot of side effects that are just not okay with them. And maybe I'll circle back around to that. But let's say if you're just trying to do this
Side effects
naturally.
from taking an SSRI.
Yeah, and here's one of the reasons why, because
By the
serotonin
way,
is
are we talking like obviously I don't take any of that stuff. So like what are some brand names of SSRI? Like Prozac or something?
yeah, like Zoloft, Prozac.
Okay,
Yeah,
Zoloft. Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So here's the thing. Your gut produces serotonin, and it does that because serotonin is actually a gut metabolite that is broken down from tryptophan. Tryptophan is a gut metabolite. It is also an essential amino acid. Basically, you get it from eating high quality proteins, like think your chicken
Okay.
thighs, your eggs, right? Like you get tryptophan from eating those. So you take them in, your body breaks it down to serotonin. then you got serotonin, right? You got the ability to feel happy now. And not only that, once you've
Interesting.
got that, your serotonin is going to further break down into melatonin, which is like those little gummies you like buy if you can't go to sleep, right? So now, not only are you feeling happy, but you also are able to sleep at night because it broke down into the melatonin. And now the other thing is that serotonin is actually hugely responsible for initiating your digestion. So
Okay.
now you're like going in the cycle where now like your gut is happy, like you're happy, you're sleeping at night. Now like your gut can like you can initiate digestion the way you were supposed to. So you can see how like if there's a breakdown anywhere in there, like maybe you didn't get enough fiber, maybe you were stressed, maybe there's inflammation. Now you might have eaten the chicken thigh, but you can't break it down into serotonin because there's like your gut isn't healthy. There's a breakdown there. So now you can't break it down into melatonin. You're not getting sleep.
Mm.
Now you can't initiate digestion because you don't have the serotonin, right? So I mean, there's like a major cyclical thing
Okay.
happening there.
That's some serious cause and effect. I love that. I didn't realize how important serotonin is. And then like with tryptophan, I mean, gosh, when I hear that, for some reason I think of Thanksgiving and turkeys and
Yeah,
then making me tired.
which makes sense because it breaks down eventually into melatonin, right?
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. But listen, I like I like that you just geeked out, by the way. That was awesome because it's kind of showing how this stuff full circle works. And it speaks to something else that personally I'm a huge believer in. And that is, finding the root cause of the problem, not putting a Band-Aid on it, not putting a
Yes,
Band-Aid to
yes.
fix it. And those SSRIs, Prozac, God, I can't believe I'm blanking on the brand names. That shows I'm not into any of that
Yeah,
stuff.
like Zoloft and Prozac are the only ones I can try to think
Zoloft,
of.
all that stuff. Like all that stuff to me, honestly, like I've had various family members that have been prescribed that, and I try everything in my power to have them not take it because that's a Band-Aid fix to me. Now, again, I know some people might need maybe a little time where they use that to help. But again, like I'm all about finding those root causes of what's going on. If you have a rash, don't put something on it. Let's figure out why that rash is happening from the inside, which I'm
Yes.
assuming as a holistic doctor, that's your whole vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, we're going there, right? So this was definitely a thing for me when I was a therapist, right? And not I don't mean like a thing. Like I was a therapist, like I'm a coach now, a practitioner. Like I will always support a person in what they feel is the best route for them. I will always take the stance that you know yourself like better than I do. So I'm always supportive of what a person just feels and knows is right for them, right? You know you better than I do. I can bring in all the things, but So I'm always supportive of that. But yeah, truly, like as a therapist, I wanted to and now too, I just wanted to jump so many times, and wanting to support people, but also wanting them to understand that, if you do take that SSRI, for example, things happen like, that serotonin gets moved from your gut into your brain. And so now you don't have an important thing that you need to initiate digestion, which is going to cause immunity problems and inflammation problems and, energy problems, all kinds of other issues. So if you need it, then you need it. But, is it worth it to try to address the underlying cause here? Like, can we look at the other things that are going on in your life that may help alleviate, that depression or, whatever you're experiencing, right? Yes, the underlying cause is the place to go.
That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. All right, let's jump into probiotics.
Yeah.
Like obviously everybody's heard that term, but I mean, help us dumb that down for us and help us really understand that.
Yeah, so this is it's as simple as just promoting the growth of that good bacteria. Remember, bacteria is a good thing, right? It just promotes bacteria in your gut. And actually, when you asked me earlier, what are some of the things that I did to improve my gut? And one of those things was having at least one fermented food a day is generally
Okay.
a good recommendation.
Okay.
And with that, you may or may not need a probiotic. right? So that's going to be different. That's going to depend on, maybe the amount of fermented foods that you have. I've worked with some folks, they have a fermented food every day and they don't need a probiotic. And you can see that from their gut health test results that they don't
Interesting.
need one. They have a sufficient population diversity of bacteria in their gut, right? So yeah, that's all.
Okay.
Fermented foods, your gut just loves them. They love that.
What are some examples of fermented foods?
Yeah, so I would say there's maybe not like the largest variety that most people would like.
Yeah.
Sometimes every folks really try to find the thing they like, but we're talking about kombucha,
Okay.
yogurt, kimchi. That's
Kimchi.
what is it? Yeah,
I do
it's
like
a
kimchi.
Korean thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, some pickles, but actually, like most pickles that you see, no, like they need to. I don't know the process, but usually a pickle off the shelf is not a pickle that is fermented. I'm forgetting it needs to have a certain process to it. Miso is a fermented food.
Miso. Okay, got it.
Um,
Okay. That's a good list of fermented foods, and that's a list I eat a lot of those.
Yeah.
Okay, so pickled
good.
things like what about like sauerkraut or like
The sauerkraut, yeah, that's one.
cauliflower, like there's pickled cauliflower, all that stuff. Okay, so those are fermented foods.
Yeah, I don't know about
that
the pickled cauliflower and stuff like that though. I'm kind of drawing a blank on the process that pickled things. Like there's different ways to pickle things, and I really don't
Yeah.
remember the one that like truly counts as a fermented food. So that would be one to do some research on.
Okay. And then it's probably related to vinegar. I think maybe vinegar is a part of a lot of that fermentation process.
Yeah,
Maybe vinegar.
that's like I think like that's the distinguishing factor, I think, between the pickles that are considered fermented and the ones that aren't. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
that's
sort
right.
of-
That's right. I'll tell you, my dad, back when we were kids, he would like make these jars of pickles and he'd put them in our basement. And then like 6 months later, they'd like make an appearance, and man, those things were delicious.
Yeah.
That's probably legit fermentation right there.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think you would make them with
Yeah.
like pickles and stuff. I'll have to ask my mom. I
I
might
make
have
my
to
own
start doing that again.
kombucha. But
Okay,
I
so
make
you
my own
like
kombucha.
kombucha?
Wonderful, yes, and the homemade stuff is really good. It's actually really simple. Like it's a lot
Oh
simpler
yeah.
than
How do you make kombucha? Because again, when you say kombucha, immediately I start thinking the brands at the store, and then
Yeah.
immediately the skeptic in me is like, okay, those things can't be the best for you simply because I'm buying them at a retail location and some savvy entrepreneur is behind that. So let's say they are fine for you, but how do you make kombucha? Maybe this is another big learning
Yeah,
for everybody.
and you know what I would say, like I don't have any sort of like research backing this up, but I would say that once I started making my own kombucha, that I could tell a difference in my gut health. So I
believe
don't
it.
know, like I don't know what's behind that, but I don't know. I mean, there's a certain
Roasted.
amount of processing for kombucha at the store, even though it says like unfiltered and raw and all that. There's got to be a certain
Yeah.
amount of processing to that. So I don't know, and it
Okay.
probably is still really good for you. But once I started making my own, I could definitely tell a difference.
That's amazing. How do you make it? Yeah, tell us, because I'm gonna make
Yeah,
some.
so you just you have to start with a SCOBY, and I'll just tell you, like I bought a SCOBY off of Amazon. It was like $13. So, and what is a SCOBY? A SCOBY is basically like this lump of like bacteria. Like I don't even know how to describe it.
Wow.
But it's all the good things that your gut loves. Yeah, and it comes in like this little like puck, basically. Like I don't know how to describe it other than like a puck of bacteria, and it comes in a little bit of tea, like a pouch of tea, basically. And that's how kombucha starts, is tea. Usually black tea. It might have a little bit of green tea. But that's it. So you get this SCOBY in a little pack of tea, and then that's what you start with. And then basically you just have to keep feeding it as if it were like sourdough. Oh, that's when I forgot sourdough. But you make your own tea, and then you pour it on the SCOBY, and then you wait anywhere from like a week to 3, basically. And then
wow.
after that, yeah. So it's just kind of like fermenting and doing
Do
its
you
thing.
cut up the SCOBY into like cubes and then put the one SCOBY goes into what, like a bucket, or what do you put it in?
Into a gallon jar. I
Okay,
use
like a gallon jar.
honestly I bought like one of those huge like pickle jars at Sam's and just sterilized
Got it. Yeah.
and put all my stuff in there. And then After that, week to 3, kind of depending on like
You bought that
temperature.
huge Sam's pickle jar, and then you said to your husband, "Honey, eat all these, eat all these pickles. I
I
need
threw
the
them out.
jar."
I was like,
He's like, "I can't eat any more pickles." Okay, that's funny. Okay, I got you. Okay, that's good. So like one of those big jars. Okay, so you drop the SCOBY, which is like a hockey puck. You drop that
Yeah,
in there. What do you pour on top of it? Tea or water or
tea.
what?
Yeah,
Tea.
tea.
Okay.
Yeah, like you make a batch of concentrated tea,
Black
concentrated
tea, like
sweet
tea
tea.
bags.
Yeah, yeah, black tea bags. I put a little bit of green tea in it as well, but it does
Okay.
it really needs more black tea. And it's sweet too. So the kombucha, it needs sugar to eat. I mean, think like yeast, right? Like yeast needs sugar to like eat and ferment and all that. So you do have to put sugar in it. But also the longer it sits and ferments, the more of that sugar it eats up and the less sugar you are actually taking into your body. So you're not like, as long as you let it like sit long enough, it's not like you're drinking like super sweet southern, black
I
tea
got
every
you. I got
day.
you. But
um
do you add additional sugar to it then?
when you make that tea concentrate, yeah, you have to make it with sugar. I think the recipe called for a cup. I put 3/4 of a cup because I just always
Okay.
do a little bit less. But again,
Yeah.
you don't want to go less than that because it does need sugar to eat. But yeah, you basically put a sweetened black tea concentrate that you make in that jar and let it sit for about a week to 3. And then after that, you're gonna have a second fermentation. That's when you actually take the tea out and put it into your bottles. And then at that point, if you want to add like blueberry or maybe like a teensy bit of like orange juice or something,
Mm.
you'll put that in there just for flavoring, and then you let it sit for maybe a few days or a week or something like that for a second ferment, and that's when it gets all fizzy like it does in the store.
Oh, interesting. What about, does it need to be in a dark environment, or like do you let it sit on your kitchen counter, or do you put it in a really dark environment? Does light affect the fermentation process?
It prefers a darker environment. I
Okay.
have it in my laundry room that does have a little window, but I keep the window closed. So a little bit of, it's not like you need it in a closet or anything, but it likes a darker environment, and it also likes a warmer environment. So,
Mm.
what I've read is cold equals mold. So if you keep your house
Cold
at like
equals mold.
65 degrees.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Got it. All right. You know what? That's cool. We just learned how to make kombucha. I'm going to
Yeah,
make some
yeah.
kombucha, see how that goes. Okay. Let's talk about, before we talk about how do we fix gut health, I do want to get your thoughts on gut health and like, chronic disease, whether it's like Crohn's disease or, gosh, what are the other, well, there's so many of
Oh
them, but
God, it would be cholesterol, like high blood
yeah,
pressure.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, once again, kind of going back to like the gut is your second brain, it's connected to everything. Improving your gut health will help improve outcomes with all of the other things. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's just because its hands are in everything, right? I, like I told you before, like I, was constantly sick, right? And I would always say, well, I have asthma and allergies, and I live in Louisiana, like dear God of Holland, right? And
Mm.
so I would just chalk it up to that. I had a period in my life too where I honestly was afraid that I had fibromyalgia. Like I had pain all the time, and I was like in my early 30s, right? Like who is in pain all the time in their early 30s, right? And something not be wrong. There are times, and I went to, doctors, and they're like, everything's fine. I don't really know what's going on, right? There were other times that I thought that I had irritable bowel syndrome, right? So
Oh, got it.
there are
That's
a
the one I was
number of
thinking of.
things, yeah, that, once I improved my gut health, disappeared. Like they just went away. Like it wasn't a thing anymore. So, I mean, I rarely, knock on wood here. I mean, I realize anything can happen, emergencies can happen, but like, I rarely have to go to the doctor.
That's
Health
awesome.
insurance is not even a thing. Again,
I
like,
love
God
that.
forbid something happens tomorrow, but, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think there's a difference between catastrophic health insurance and like, breaking an arm or getting, something bad. I'm going to knock on wood that never
yeah,
happens to you or me. But I mean, I'm the same way. I get an annual, well, it's been biannual recently, or yeah, every 2 years. But I try to get the physical to see where my levels and markers are. But as far as like going to a doctor because I'm sick, that
yeah.
hasn't happened. That hasn't happened for me in a decade, maybe. I mean, I can't
Yeah,
even
I know.
remember.
Yeah.
I have this liquid vitamin business, and from the time I started that, and honestly, from the time health became a priority for me, I don't go to the doctor. I really don't, and nothing against them. I just don't. I don't need to. I don't need to, and it
Yeah.
really does.
Yeah.
It's that immune system that you talked about earlier. Okay, so I think one theme that I've gotten from you, which I really appreciate, and I think this is very important for everyone to recognize, is there are so many issues that could and probably are linked to gut health. So
Yeah.
as you think about what's not right with you, what's not right with your body, whether that's joint pain on your knee to not sleeping well to whatever, that gut health and really kind of what you're putting into your body plays a role in all that. So if nothing else, I want the audience to take that away as a major learning, because I think that is a major learning, that we need to be cognizant of all of that stuff and our gut health, and then factor that into trying to fix anything else that's going on with our body. That makes a lot of sense to me. That really does.
Yeah. I love that. That's perfect.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move on to, I guess, really at the end of the day, if somebody comes in to see you and they are complaining about X, Y, and Z. So let's just talk through your protocol a little. You start off with the test. You test them with this company that you like. You get that, and then really from there, what's step 2 in that, and then talk us through that process.
Yeah, so as we've talked about, like, you take a very holistic approach, right? So gut health is one element; it's a major element,
Yeah,
and we will take the recommendations that we get that my client gets from a registered dietitian,
yeah,
on how to improve their gut health, and then what I help them do is span it out over 4 months,
okay,
because what we know in general, like even though I was over here like, oh my god, I made a million changes at once, like in general, that doesn't work for people.
okay,
It's not sustainable. Like most people don't like create a habit that way. And so I help people like span that out over 4 months where they make the changes and they truly make it part of their lives.
okay.
And the thing about that is that like we're human beings, we're not robots, right? So you can't just take like a printout of like this is what you need to do and that work for everybody. It doesn't, right? I mean, you know this, like we all have mindsets and families and schedules and beliefs about ourselves and beliefs about the world and worries and fears and and things we're used to
Yeah,
and things we don't know about and things we do. Like there are a million elements that will help you actually make that a reality. So we take what's given to that person and I help them make it a reality over the next 4 months. Along with that though, certainly like you asked me earlier about movement. Yes, like you cannot expect to be healthy if you don't have movement in your life. So I work with a person to um, make sure that they have healthy movement in their life and to keep them accountable to that. And a lot of people do come with healthy movement and we just like optimize it, right? So for example, some women do like they have movement every day, but it's all cardio. And what we know
mm,
is that like women in midlife, especially or to work with, like they have to have strength training. And
yep,
that's, like not only for their bone density, but it's also for their gut health. It's also because women in midlife have a real issue with belly fat, like physiologically, like because estrogen is declining and all that.
yeah,
And strength training is one of the best things to help them with that. So what I do is I help them create movement in their life and or optimize movement in their life. And then also, I'm a coach to my core, like I was a therapist, the one-on-one coaching is just a huge element where I'm just a human being with these people and we just work through all the things, right? Like all of
yeah.
the things that if being healthy it was easy as like I know what to do, let me go do it. Well, then we'd all be doing it, right? But
Right, right,
it's
right.
not that simple, right? So I just walk with people like through that process, making it a reality.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, this has been fantastic. And what I'm thinking is we kind of hit the pause button here because I've got like 30 other questions, but you know what? Let's stop here. I hope more than anything else that people now are even more aware than they've ever been about the importance of gut health, and then quite frankly, the ramifications that gut health could have in other areas that they're having issues in. And so I know I'm going to get a ton of questions from people that, might say, hey, I'm having XYZ, what do you think? And so maybe what we'll do is kind of wait for all those to gather and then bring you back on, and we can dive more into this gut health stuff. And then maybe we can really talk about some, I'll give you a list of like men specific issues, women specific issues. I know your expertise lies in the women area, but I have a feeling, you can talk to both of those. Any parting words for my deep, shallow gut audience?
God, I mean, I don't know. I just want to say this is really fun, and I just appreciate just how real and raw and authentic you are. This has just been really fun. I appreciate it. I feel complete freedom to talk about whatever. It's really great.
You. Thank you. I think I hopefully I made you feel comfortable telling you that I've literally done an episode telling people to look into their toilet and examine their
absolutely. Yeah, I know. I mean, well, really, like we shy away from those things, right? And people are afraid to talk about it.
Totally.
And actually,
here's the thing. I mean, again, I'm not going to ask you your age, but like, once you're over, once you're over 35, you need to talk about this shit. Pun intended.
Yes.
Like, this stuff is important. Like we're over that nonsense stuff. Like that, we'll leave that to the Instagram culture. We're here to like figure out how we can feel better. I'm not trying to age gracefully. I'm not trying to age. So anyway.
Yes. Well, and I think about like what I've heard from so many women is I've been to the doctor and they tell me everything's normal, and they're like,
yeah.
Like everything's not normal. Everything is not normal, right? So like I love this because I know that people need us to be talking about this.
Totally. You know what? Next episode, I would like to go into the menopause stuff and really dive into that more. Because I actually, it's funny. I think as a man, it would help me understand women better if I understood that whole process. We might be on to some marital counseling.
Well, I actually had a guy ask me the other day. He was like, do you ever have, spouses ask you about, menopause and perimenopause and what that's like? It's like, my wife tells me about it sometimes. I had no idea what she went through. And I was like, no, I wish more men would ask.
All right.
So that, just understanding, right? And I mean, that can go both ways for sure. What men are experiencing, women need to understand it better.
I love it. All right, Lauren, thank you so much. We will sign off, and we're looking forward to having you back.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ray.
All right. Take care.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.